Hi, and welcome to this Atos LinkedIn Live. Today, focusing on the financial services and insurance market, where we talk about measuring and delivering business value. Especially in insurance, there's sometimes the problem that business value is not maybe calculated in the very right way. So kind of a problem we want to overcome. So today, we're going to talk about the business value framework that will shed some light and help getting things right. I'm absolutely not the specialist in that place, but absolutely curious and listen and hear what we have here for you. So it's an absolute pleasure that I welcome now my guest for today, which is Andrew Davison. He's Global Insurance Consulting Lead at Atos. Hi, Andrew. Great to have you here on the show. Hi.
Hello there.
Hi. It's perfect. So I tried to cover it a little bit about like measuring business value and how important it is, especially in the insurance market. So you came up with a business value framework just for this. Before we go into that a little bit, just tell me a little bit about more the problem itself, the statement itself, and how we are tackling that, if that's fine for you.
Yes, I will do that. I think that the major problem that I've experienced over many years of working with insurance companies on transformation is how often we've had to go back to the well and do it again. So as we were in the last 2 years having to reassess a whole number of different things that we were doing, we wanted to look at exactly why that was. So what we're going to start with, rather perversely, is what this discussion isn't going to be about.
Right.
So, what we're not going to talk about is customer focus. And I was looking at some of the thought pieces and decks that I'd done over the years that was urging insurers to become customer focused and to look at their business processes from the customer's point of view and all those sort of things. And they go back more than a decade. And what I thought was, well, insurers kind of know that stuff now. Every consultancy and every systems integrator on the planet has been saying that for a long time, and many organizations have accepted all of that very vigorously. What we're also not going to talk about is data centricity. There's a whole plethora of academic and business knowledge around how modern technology has created a very data-rich world, and how all sorts of companies, insurance companies and others can exploit that. So we're not going to talk about that either, because we think that message has been received and understood. However, the thing that we are going to talk about is, are we there yet? Has customer focus and data centricity actually landed in insurers? And the consensus, I think, amongst certainly our colleagues in Atos and I think elsewhere, is that yes, in some instances, but not completely, and certainly not universally. So the question is, why are we still talking about all this stuff if customer focus and data centricity is actually being well understood and as something to aspire to for so long? And I think that there are a couple of major reasons for that. And these are challenges that are not new. They're not things that are a great revelation, but they're very hard to fix. And the first one is the time to value. There are numerous examples of transformation programs that have gone on for many years. They've spent an awful lot of money, and by the time they actually deliver something tangible into the business has moved on, and they're just delivering yesterday's requirements rather than tomorrow's. And
which is not the perfect thing for an ROI on a project like that. So if you start and 2 years later deliver and the market has changed and the offers have changed, Got that. So time to value, very important.
Exactly, and part of the problem with that is that it simply takes too long to understand what the requirements are, and then too long to deliver things into the business. And of course, the last 2.5 years has made that even more abundantly obvious than it was before, because in December 2019, yes, people knew that the insurance industry and financial services in general were moving at a very rapid pace. But nobody expected the pandemic, and nobody expected everybody to be working from home, and all of the applications, all of the implications of that. So being able to deliver more quickly is actually going to be very, very important. And the other thing is the business impact of technology-led change. And there's always a risk that whatever an organization delivers, it's not actually what the business either wanted or needs. And I've seen that in a number of organizations that I've worked for, both on the client side and in consulting, where you deliver an application or you deliver a new process into the business, and it doesn't actually pull the levers that you expected it to. It doesn't do the things that you were hoping it would do across your major key performance indicators. And the reason for that, and this is the nub of what we're going to talk about today, is that we don't actually look at value, where value is actually delivered and lost within a business process, and how that business process can be changed to eliminate the problem or to deliver on an opportunity. And because the implications of all of that is that you have to go back and do it all again. And when there's a mismatch between what you've delivered and the desired results, you end up being a serial digital transformer. And I've been involved in many organizations where we've gone back and done it again, or we've had to go back and reassess what actually needs to be done. So there's a massive cost associated with that, around the opportunity cost of simply not having your business as efficient and effective as it should be. Reductions in revenue because you're not able to get products to market as quickly as competitors are. Operational costs, because of course the temptation, if you have a problem, is to do the quick thing, which is hire more staff. And of course that isn't really an option anymore, because we've got a very tight labour market. And market share, where you would simply not be able to compete because you've not got the right kind of products or the right kind of offerings or the right kind of service package, because you've not been able to change quickly. And then of course you've got customer satisfaction, where clunky processes and burdensome bureaucracy is not going to endear you to customers. So that's the framework that we're looking at, and that's the problem that we're trying to fix.
Right. Yeah, I understand it. So it means a little bit on, like, it takes a lot of time to build something which is not solving any problems, where you lose time and have a lot of sunk cost in a way. And then afterwards, see, there's like no real adoption, no value. So then at the very end, you have to go back. So all those things have to change, right?
Yeah. And the one of the interesting things around this is that you can have a project that within its own terms has delivered on time and on budget, and has delivered the features and functions and the technical and business requirements. Yet it still doesn't do the things that it needs to do for the business overall. And that is another element of it, is actually making sure that the kind of metrics that you use in a transformation program are the same ones you use to measure the business and what the business success looks like.
Okay.
So the way that we approach this is initially we'd go through and actually understand what the business value stream is. And that is in essence going through each stage of a process and working out how, any process has inputs, transformations, and outputs. So you work out what the outputs are at each stage, and what value they add. And quite often we discover that some of them don't add any value at all, in which case that's a good opportunity to stop doing them. And then others, there will be some bottlenecks. So what we're trying to do is to light up what those bottlenecks are. And for instance, you see here there's one which is coloured in red. Yeah. And the interesting thing that this was actually something that we looked at in terms of an insurance direct-to-consumer new business process. And as we went through this, we discovered that the point where a customer drops out of the process is at underwriting stage. Now, obviously, the overall aim of a business process is, to bring in revenue, to increase market share, customer retention, or whatever it happens to be. In this case, it would be conversion rates. So the burning platform was that the conversion rates weren't high enough, but we discovered that actually people were dropping out of the process when they had to fill in the underwriting questions. And it turned out that the reason for that was that the underwriting questions were too burdensome. They were too complicated. They weren't written particularly well. They were very in legalese jargon, and people were just simply being put off by it. So that's where the bottleneck was. Now, had we not looked at that, then we would have probably gone and fixed a whole bunch of other things around the look and feel, where the buttons were on the screens, help drop downs and all that good stuff that you would normally look at. But if you don't fix that particular problem, you're still not going to get the business value that you're looking for overall. Right. So that's what we mean by the business value framework is that actually you need to look at it at the granular level. So what we then do is to use that performance data to identify where we're actually going to look first. What the impediments and the blockers are, and what we're going to do about them. Now, some of them can be fixed without touching IT. You can easily change underwriting questions. It's a different process of discussion of how that would go ahead. But sure. An IT problem. So really, the end game for all of this is a data-driven enterprise. It's actually to produce a way of working that enables you to continually examine your processes, measure what you're doing, and then implement an improvement, and then check whether it's actually had the results that you wanted it to. So the three questions we want to ask I want answers to are, what should we work on next, and why is that the most important thing? So it's around prioritization. So in the example I was going through, it would, in that instance, it might be fix the underwriting questions, but it could be a whole bunch of other things as well. Then when we're actually delivering change into a business, how efficiently and effectively are we actually converting our idea into action? And that we will use the same measures for the prioritization and for looking at the delivery. And then finally, did the changes that we put in actually deliver the results that we wanted them to? And again, we're using the same metrics for all three of these. And in that way, we're not isolating the transformation program from the actual business itself. And in that's one of the ways we were talking about not delivering value. Either we're not delivering the value that the business wanted, or it's taking too long. Well, this is actually a way of getting around that by saying, no, we use the same metrics for everything. So that means that we're never in a position where we have a successful project that doesn't deliver what the business needs.
Okay. Just like when you mentioned that those 3 points, prioritize them. So initially you were looking at the customer journey in a very detailed and fragmented way to find out the impediments and the blockers. Somehow then you prioritized how important they were to fix, and also like how complicated it is to fix them. So there's like just like how much do you have to do the change that part, deliver it, and then
yeah. So we're not certainly not looking at it in a fragmented way. There are 2 levels of prioritization. One would be around a particular process itself. For instance, if we're talking about new business, and the burning platform is our conversion rates are not high enough. So that would be a priority that you would have already established at the business level. But at a lower level, when you start looking at that particular process in detail, you will find that there are elements of it where value is not being delivered in the way it needs to be, and that's the prioritization that happens. It's not strategic; it's tactical.
Right. Thank you. And then afterwards, you're going into the evaluation afterwards, so you can compare the metrics you had before and see a change right at that time, like way faster. Correct?
Well, exactly, and it's also consistency, because if you've got different levels of different measures of success for a project team, and they are that they are on time, on budget, we've delivered the requirements that you asked for, then that could still not be developed. That could still not be delivering what the business really needs, which would be an improvement in conversion rates, because you actually are not measuring the right things in your transformation program. You're delivering something that's divorced from the actual business outcomes that you're looking for.
Right. So it's like done. It was done the right way, but it was not the right so to say, in a way.
Yeah, you're delivering what the business asked for, but it's not what the business needed.
Okay, got that. Thank you.
So the way that we actually achieve all of this, and this integration of change delivery, transformation delivery, based on data, and with a really firm grasp of the business process and how it works, is by bringing together 3 different sets of skills. One of them is domain expertise. So you do need to understand how the processes fit together and the relationship between them, and who the stakeholders are, and what the KPIs that the business need are. We obviously have a big ally in that, because we work with customers who know their own business. But quite often, businesses only really sit down and start talking about what the business value actually is when there's somebody in the room with them asking the question. And I've seen this many times, where until you sit down with the stakeholders in a particular business process, and ask them, well, why do you do this? Then quite often they won't have actually asked that question of themselves. And then, of course, all manner of creativity comes out, and quite often you find out that somebody's producing a report and they're sending it to somebody else, and they never read it. I've seen that quite a few times. So there's that in itself is value, because you then have the discussion about where the bottlenecks are and what the business need to do about them. But then when it comes to actually measuring all of that, that can actually be quite tricky, because it's you may well have a mainframe, for instance, where you're actually extracting data out of a business process is quite difficult. I've seen many processes where things get keyed into spreadsheets, so it's tricky to understand exactly what the metrics will be all the way through. That's why we have data scientists. They are very used to doing this sort of thing and using a whole creative suite of data to actually understand what is really going on. And then the third part of it is customer and user experience. It's how do you, one, understand your business process and actually map what it is, and then how do you make sure that you're making the right kinds of changes to it? Because clearly, if we were just going to use the same process we used before, you're not going to get the benefits of simplification and automation and all these other things that you would want to be doing. And that's where the customer experience piece comes in as well. Though that in itself doesn't actually deliver anything. All it does is say, oh, this is what the problem is and this is what we think we should do about it. So in our digital transformation scores, we have two other skill domains. One is the actual technology itself. So clearly, in many financial services in organizations, and particularly in insurers, they are struggling with legacy IT. So in order to achieve the results that you've established that you need with the data scientists and the domain experts and the customer experience, you have to make changes to your platform. You have to actually create the data analytics skills that are needed to actually understand what the business value metrics are. You need to introduce new apps or modernize the ones you have. And then you have all the implications of security and compliance. And we've seen huge amounts of work being done around that as a result of people working from home in the pandemic, and particularly things like insurance claims, where you've got very sensitive information going backwards and forwards. So all of that technology piece is still absolutely mission critical. And we can't, when business consultants talk about, customer experience and understanding, the bottlenecks and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, some of the solutions will actually sit within organizational design or business process. But underneath all of that, you've still got all the fundamental issues of technology and how to and how to marshal it to do the things that you need to do. And what the business value framework does is makes it explicit what the issues are. And also, it's a very good way of creating a business case for change. Because if you know that what the business value is, and you know where the bottlenecks are, and you can quantify those, and you can actually relate those directly to your business key performance indicators, be they claims ratio, conversion rates, combined ratio, whatever it happens to be, you can then say, well, in order to be able to fix these problems that we've established are the ones that are the biggest priority, we need to move to the cloud, or we need to change our core systems, or whatever it happens to be.
Right, so you can make the decisions based on that, looking at that part in the business model itself, changing a conversion rate by X amount of percent, or even digits afterwards, and then calculate the value out of that and relate it to the investment you would have to do to change legacy systems, for example.
Exactly, and right. Obviously, it's not going to be just one metric. It's not just about conversion rates necessarily. It could be about a whole range of different things. But one of the important things is that if you're beginning to use a data-driven prioritization process, it means that it's much harder for the loudest or most eloquent voice in the room to get their own way, just because they're the loudest or most eloquent voice in the room, and it doesn't completely eliminate that kind of distortion, but it certainly makes it harder. So that some Cinderella parts of the business that really are quite vital but don't get an awful lot of attention suddenly might do that, because the metrics that you're using make it abundantly obvious that if we don't fix this problem here, then we're not going to be able to fix all of them. And the final part of it is the lean agile approach. What we need to be able to do is, rather than big transformation programs that are not going to allow you're going to take 18 months before you deliver anything, well, that's not going to work anymore. So the business value framework is actually built entirely on a lean agile approach, so that we do short, sharp, incremental changes, because then we can measure and evaluate what we've done, as we were saying before, to make sure that that what we're doing is going in the right direction. If it isn't, you can adjust it and then go around the house again.
Right. Well, that's perfect. That's also like one of our participants, Carol, is bringing lean startup to the enterprise. So something we know from startups, common models that are used their very agile way, relating back to the manufacturing part. And I think car building was building up the lean process. Now to the enterprise, and a very important way of doing it, being more agile, way quicker in the iterations, right?
Yeah, and that's the key component to this, because this is not about this isn't a timeline, and you'll see all these arrows swirling around here. They're there for very good reasons, because you're going around this virtuous circle all the time. So you're always looking at what the demand is. You're always looking at how you can improve the data you're getting. You're always looking at your processes. You're constantly evaluating the technology, and you're doing all this as part of your lean agile approach.
And interesting, but also a lot of work bringing that all together. And also every of those circles means like they have a direct reflection on maybe one of the KPIs you need to measure. And you also need to find out what change has done what value change, right?
Oh, absolutely, and that's why these transformation squads have got a range of capabilities in them. So, in addition to the expertise that our customers bring, the transformation squads will have, depending on what problems we're trying to fix, enterprise architects, lean delivery consultants, domain people, data scientists, CX people, and organizational change consultants, all working together with the customer in pods and in cross-functional teams to actually do all the things we've just been talking about, and create that iterative way of working. And of course, you have to start somewhere.
Right.
So what we generally do is start by baselining the strategy, of understanding what the organization wants to do and the vision, and to do it in a very practical way. Not we want to be the best of the best. That's not a vision. That's an aspiration. So it has to be about things like reducing claims ratios, increasing customer net promoter scores, a combination of all sorts of different things probably. And then we create the transformation backlog, which is, these are the things that we need to fix in the order that we need to fix them. So that's that prioritization piece. And then we jumpstart the whole process, and we establish what the outcomes are needed, and we start training not just the transformation squad into what it is they're trying to do, but also training the people we're working with, so that they can work in an agile way, and that this is something that they will take on and do themselves. And there are numerous toolkits and training aids that we can use for this. It sometimes takes a little bit of adjusting to, but as soon as the first iteration of this goes through, and you see how transparent the process is, and how logical and data-driven it is, it becomes something that people warm to. And the last part of it is actually the instrumentation, the dashboards, and the way that we measure all of this. And we use two organisations' task stop and agility health radar to do all of that. So not only have you got the transformation squads themselves, but you've also got a very intuitive and slick way of measuring all of these things as you go through the process.
Well, that's really amazing to see that. Just like setting up the squad so that people doing it in a different way, tackling the problem after the problem and just really focusing it, measuring it, and then afterward just like reiterate and bring back a lot of transparency. That's what you mentioned.
Yeah,
and way higher speed.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that this becomes, it builds momentum,
Right.
because one of the things that is very debilitating to a change program is when you're not delivering the things that the business want, or the business don't think you're delivering the things that they want, and you end up with numerous kickoffs and restarts and refreshes and all that sort of thing going on. What this does, it brings the business owner and the business themselves right into the heart of the transformation, so that they're always aware of what's going on. All the measures are agreed between the business, IT, if the IT are involved, and the digital transformation squad. So you always know, everybody agrees that these are the things that we are measuring, and these are the things, this is the backlog, this is the prioritization that we're going to follow. It's not something that's imposed. So it's human nature that if you've got a stake in the decision making, then you're going to have a stake in the outcome.
Right, that's absolutely right. There's another comment coming in here, and it's like, this can be pointed to any number of areas in the enterprise to start smart, whether on reducing claims ratios or conversion rates, or another area. Focus on and measure what really matters, and that measure what really matters. That's also a question I would have. It's like, when you brought this up right now, it's like, and now I'm in a company, for example, doing it like we did at the very start of your presentation. How can I start with you? What would be your number one suggestion to do me right now? Because and how long would it take me to get the first things? Because like it's like starting off and then I'm waiting. Is there something you could suggest or talk a little bit from your experience on that? What would be a good way to start off?
Well, I think that the short answer is that as far as how long is it going to take is, how long is a piece of string? I mean, it really depends on what it is you're trying to change. But the longer answer to that question is there will be some. There are two elements to this. One is, what's the thing that is hurting me the most, or to be positive, what is the opportunity that I see that I want to grasp? So that's at the macro level within an organization. But then once you get into it in a bit more detail, you're saying, well, okay, where are the easy things, the things that I can actually do straight away? Because something may be really, really important but extremely hard, but something might be slightly less important but actually much easier. So certainly, as you start these transformation squads, some quick wins is always going to be, something to hang your hat on, and certainly that would be something that I would advocate. Is yes, of course, you need to tackle the really big questions, but you don't necessarily have to do those first. If there are some things that you can do to solve a few problems right at the very beginning, and also you have to remember that most of these business processes are managed by people, and people don't want to be doing complicated, fiddly tasks that they know could be done in an easier way, and that would enable them to do the more important things like talking to customers or winning new business or whatever it happens to be. So if you can start making their lives easier, then you're going to get an awful lot more out of them in these transformation squads and these cross-functional teams.
Well, I think that's perfect. A great approach on that. Also, like to see the opportunity and how you could reach that opportunity, going for that solution, and then also find out, like going for the impact effort scale. So to see what has the highest impact with the least effort. That's like sort of the quick wins you should do right now. And we're supporting on finding those topics, setting up the prioritization of that, delivering it, and afterwards measuring it. And I think that's just a very great offer to support customers on that journey to go with that business model framework, and creating value out of that. And that's like the business value out of that. That's absolutely perfect. If I would want to start tomorrow, Andrew, just open question. Do I just like call you? How to get in touch? What would be a first step?
Well, I mean, calling me would be an excellent first step. I mean, obviously, my background and experience is in insurance, but as you pointed out earlier, this could be applied to any business. It's not even just financial services. So the first thing to do really is talk to us, and we can help you, work out what the problem is. And as we said earlier, sometimes the first place where value is added is simply by talking through what you need with your peers, which you may not have done before, and then at a lower level, looking at a particular business function and having people who are stakeholders in that function talk to each other about what the business value is within what they're doing. And then all of the prioritization and the other pieces flow out of that. So that's a very good place to start.
That's perfect. So you mentioned like calling you is a good thing for all of you, dear participants who are watching us now on LinkedIn Live, or even the recording out of this. Down below under the event, you will find the LinkedIn card from Andrew Davison. So at least first starting point, you can connect with Andrew. And I think that's good to go. Also, the very first things to do and where to create value. I think that's an important message. And it's very important to start, even if it sometimes seems to be hard. I heard once, sometimes it's more important to start than being right at the first place, because this is where you find out like the ugly pieces you need to change in systems and legacy systems and all that. Do you agree?
Yeah, yes. Well, it actually not getting it right first time is intrinsic in the lean agile approach, because if you get a multi-year, multi-million-dollar change program wrong, then that's going to be career limiting to a number of people. But if you do a lean agile sprint and it doesn't actually deliver what you needed it to deliver, but you know why, then actually you've learned something. So that's actually, there's no such thing as a sprint that doesn't achieve something, because you either achieve your outcome or you don't achieve it, but you know why you haven't, and you go back and do it again. So the cost of failure is much, much lower, and in fact, it should be embraced.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So it's like you bring down uncertainty, you bring down the risk going on a single sprint on changing. So possibility of sunk cost is quite low at the time. You get results fast. And I think that's also what you mentioned at the very beginning. You start up the iteration having a result quite fast, and either you learn or you just like have already increased that. That's a perfect approach to go. Andrew, anything you want to ask on your business value framework the audience should know? Or do you think like if they should want to know more something, they should reach directly out to you and discuss it in detail and set up a squad together with you to get things done in a more precise and quicker way?
Yeah, and the main thing with this is that not to get too hung up on jargon and process, because actually when you get into this, it actually becomes remarkably intuitive, because you're starting from a point of clarity and transparency, because you know what the metrics actually are, and everybody agrees them. Now, you're always going to get differences of opinion and differences of perspective, but when you're using data to make your decisions, it becomes a lot easier to justify them internally within your organization, but within your function and within a team, but also when it comes to making a business case for change, or continued change, or more change, or to do these sorts of things in other places. It becomes that much easier to do, because you've got analytics. You've got, that we discovered that this was the problem. We fixed this problem, and the outcome was that the thing that wasn't happening before now is, or we've increased. To go back to the new business example, we've increased conversion rates by X, and it's a truism, but nothing succeeds like success, and a lot of organisations have had, they've had quite a battering from, not just external environment and COVID and all these other things that have been going on, but
Right.
even before that, the reputation of change agents and change champions in some organisations not as high as it should be, because for a whole range of different reasons, a transformation program has, it did something, but we're not sure if that was really what we wanted, or it was so slow that we ended up having to even missed out on a new product launch, or we had to introduce another system to launch our product because you couldn't launch it on the old system, and then of course that leads to even more IT spaghetti. So getting to this virtuous circle as quickly as possible, absolutely vital.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. It reminded me of an innovation talk I once heard, is like that said, there is an enemy and your friend. The enemy is called OPO and the friend is called Yoda. OPO is other people's opinion, and Yoda stands for your own data. And I think you brought that out. Data-driven change of processes is just a way to go forward. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being with me today, talking about measuring and delivering business value. I think it was quite interesting to see that insurance companies, other companies, but big enterprises should also adopt the lean, agile approach, getting faster, putting up the right hypothesis, validate them in a short amount of time, find out what they have learned or where to get better, and find the right metrics. Andrew, thank you again so much. I will point to people to your LinkedIn profile to get in touch with you. Thank you for being with me on the show today. Okay. That was quite interesting. And yeah, we all know being more agile, sure about where to invest money, and just make that certainty or that uncertainty smaller and that certainty bigger for doing the right thing. That's an absolute good way to go. Andrew Davison was showing us that in today's session. If you're interested in another topic, especially on the financial services or insurance market, please let us know. Just put it in the comments. We'll try to take care of it. See you the next time we go for another Atos LinkedIn Live. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.